Hello everyone, this is Dan Gramza, and welcome to Gramza Market Studies for Wednesday, July 8th. One of the things we talked about yesterday in preparing for yesterday's session was how bullish the action was the day before, that we gotten low enough to find buyers. Example would be the NASDAQ market. And all these stock indices, we see these shadows. It implies the market's gotten low enough to find buyers, and the issue was, can we get follow through? Well, yesterday we saw the answer, and the answer is not only did we not get follow through, but we also got a close below that swing low. So technically, on a daily chart, it means that this NASDAQ market and the S&P and the Dow and almost the mid-cap are technically in a downtrend. Now, the other thing I find interesting about it is how enthusiastic it was. Look at the large move that we had. It was a trend day down from a market profile point of view. And a very healthy move. It behaved properly in that respect. The issue for today, let's talk about what we can expect for today based upon this action that we've seen, and that is we would not expect a large move. We would not expect this market to give us another dramatic drop like it had yesterday unless we have some kind of fundamental excuse that gives the market a reason to do that. Typically, we would not see another day like yesterday today. So we would expect the market to kind of rotate back and forth. That will be more common behavior. And we're going to find out in a few hours if indeed that's going to happen. Well, let's take a look at those currencies. You know, again, the follow through is the issue here. If you look at the buyers that came in the day before, here's yesterday. Well, they continued. We did make new highs, but then they failed. We saw the same thing in the Swissy. The two markets that really did have some directional play was one of them was the Japanese yen. And here we see that stronger move yesterday. Nice and healthy, getting a close above that previous swing high. It implies continuation from a technical point of view of an uptrend for Mr. Yen. And when it comes to other markets, it had a fairly strong move in the opposite direction of yesterday. It would be the British pound. We're now back down towards these lows. We can see overnight it's a little bit of selling coming in here. Today, and actually not only today's action, but tomorrow's action as well. The next 2 days are going to be critical, I think, for the potential for British pounds. Today could be a bigger move to the downside. Wouldn't be surprised to see that if we can maintain these lower levels. Also the same thing for the Canadian dollar and the same thing for the Australian dollar. The next 2 days I think are going to be very important in terms of how these markets will unfold from a longer term perspective. Now if we look at the euro dollar, the short end of the curve, this is now the December contract, and what we're seeing is the market continues to move higher, but it's struggling now. In this particular contract, in the SEP contract, which is what we were looking at before, it did make new highs today. But it's time for us to roll over a bit, and it has been for a while. Here we're seeing a potential loss of momentum type setup. So we need to be careful about what's going on here. And wouldn't be surprised to see this back off a little bit. It has the right stage set for that type of movement. Well, in the notes, we continued our move to the upside. Nice move. I think today could be a potential turning point. We're not looking for another big move today in this market, but if it closes back down or trades below 117, not a good sign. Same kind of issue here for the bonds. We would not want to see it trading below these shadows, but we are looking for unchanged to higher, not a dramatic move for today's action. When it comes to the metals markets, we've seen gold yesterday, day before yesterday, we saw it come back off, or we found buyers before. We started to find them again, and yesterday's action also did the same type of thing. You see it tested those levels again, rallied up, and where we found sellers before, we found them again. So this would be maintaining. It would have closed out a short position from this side, from this sell, and it would have also initiated another short position going into the close. Silver continues its move to the downside after that very bouncy bottom. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't give us that big rally up there like we saw in gold, but it did kind of twist and turn here a little bit. It still implies that sellers are in control, but I think this $13 level on up, we need to be very careful because this has potential for very strong support. So, cautiously short would be the concept there. And in copper, this market also found those sellers again and took out this shadow that we saw here previously. It should have been a lot bigger though. So I think we need to be a little careful here about with copper, that we have that potential for this market to maybe slow down over the next couple days and give us a rally back up. But nothing telling us also to abandon a short position if we had that kind of a position on. Now, in the energy markets, they continue to get weaker. We're seeing here that same in crude oil. As I mentioned to you yesterday, our consumption is down. There's nothing really fundamentally to drive this, I don't think, to go back up. But, we've been in that boat before and we've seen these markets take off. But right now, nothing telling us to lighten the load if we were short those markets. And the same thing here for natural gas. We are finding a little bit of buying down here below 340. I don't know if it's going to be enough to turn the tide. And today may give us some clues. This is definitely due for a little bit of a pullback. But, until it wants to do it, we'll see clues of it, hopefully, before that happens. And right now, this little bit of buying may give an indication of that kind of behavior. Well, let's continue on with the grains. We can see that, soybeans had initiated that short position previous day, or that concept of one, also had a bit of a follow through today, didn't it? And again, if you're not familiar with this market, every 10 cents, so from 940 to 950, that would be $500. So, this was a pretty good move to the downside to give you a feel for how that moved lower. Corn, wheat, same kind of situations. We're looking for continued weakness in those markets. As the fundamentals kind of swirl around it, there's no real reason to see these things popping up at this point in time anyways. Well, this concludes today's market studies. Hope you found a few ideas helpful. I'm looking forward to being with you again tomorrow, and in the meantime, take care.